But USC projected to be, and I would say starting guard DJ Wingfield may not be eligible for this year. I share my screen here real quickly. But Casey, this would be a pretty huge hit to USC's, I don't want to say comeback season, but a pretty important season.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, especially considering, how Jane Mayava plays as we take a look here. And, he thought he could play, got obviously transferred a long time ago. I believe he transferred like back in December, maybe January.
Yeah, he was one of the early ones.
Yeah, and it looks like, I mean, I think he's hiring an attorney and stuff, but yeah, it's an unfortunate position to be in if you're Wingfield because, he was staying in the Big Ten. And we know he's a very good and experienced and seasoned offensive lineman, not a guy like maybe as good as like Jonah Monheim per se, but a guy who's very, very solid. And again, we were looking at the depth chart and, he's projected to play in at the left guard position. And I mean, it's not like USC doesn't have depth at the offensive line, but they don't have a ton of depth. I mean, you have Alex Payne, true freshman, could step in, but obviously you want a more physical guy. And there's other guys who could step in as well, I'm sure we'll talk about. But you want a more physical, seasoned guy when you have a quarterback like Jane Mayava, who's, such a, like, kind of sporadic type of player who's running around and, unpredictable. So it's very disappointing for sure.
Yeah, so I don't really know how you don't have this figured out until now is the thing. We're getting to July. We're a month away from college football. How is it that they are just now learning that he's not eligible for the year? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, the NCAA, like, it has had a lot of issues with this, I feel like, over the years with similar things. But, I mean, do you think, like, Wingfield, like, wasn't on top of it, or do you think it's an NCAA issue?
That's a great question. It feels like Wingfield may have not been on top of it. Like, I don't want to blame the player. But, as it says, the previous belief, I can blame USC too, but as it says right here, the previous belief was that Wingfield had a season of eligibility. How do you not, know is the thing?
Yeah,
Like,
because
what do you mean belief? How is that not, like, a definitive thing that his eligibility? How do you not, go get a guy knowing you're going to get this waiver or he's going to have eligibility?
Yeah, because he was a JUCO guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And he, I mean, look, I've listened to the interviews and whatnot, and Lincoln Riley, I mean, obviously he's going to say his own players are good, but he has talked very highly in practice about DJ Wingfield. He's a guy who has like 1,200 snaps, and again, playing at Purdue, not a good team, but still in the Big Ten Conference, a team, conference that's very physical for multiple years. And again, I mean, you look at who USC is losing: Pregnon, Mason Murphy. Not that Mason Murphy was good, but still.
I had to say that's a net negative right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying depth wise though.
Yeah.
And then of course Jonah Monheim to the draft. So you're losing a lot of guys, and I mean it's hard to kind of like measure on a stat how good an offensive lineman is until you watch them. But I looked at his PFF grades. I mean, pretty good overall. Not bad pass blocking grades. And so, yeah, again, this is a guy like you want to have on your roster. John-Ray Reed too, like two very important parts of your team and your offense rely on those two guys because they're seasoned and they're playing in the middle of the offensive line. And so this is very disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk a little bit about I guess possible fill-ins. Who is going to take his place if hypothetically he can't get that waiver? Because there is always a possibility that he does and he plays another year. Because as you mentioned, he's a JUCO guy, and all those guys have a lot more eligibility now. We know Waymon Jordan has 4 years of eligibility because of it. Who do you see slotting into that guard position? I think we're thinking he maybe plays on the left. I have some ideas outside of what we think, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think one thing you could do is move Elijah Page to the left guard because we know he has a lot of size. He wasn't the best offensive lineman last year, but I think he probably improved.
He was young. Improved, yeah.
You could move him to guard and then put a guy like Alex Payne at left tackle, Micah Benuelos as well. Your backup center is Killian O'Connor. So you could also, put him in the middle, move John-Ray Reed. I don't know if Reed would want to do that, though.
So
Reed, yeah,
that's kind of what I was thinking. O'Connor, he obviously started that Texas A&M game, if I'm not mistaken. Also, just put on scholarship this past spring. I could see him slotting into that probably center position. You maybe move Reed to the left if Reed is willing to go along with it. Obviously, he's the more experienced player. He is who they want snapping the ball. But I think as far as maybe experience within the system wise, I think that might be the best scenario, because
yeah,
I don't know if Elijah Page would work inside, he's more of a tackle.
yeah. I know. I tend to agree. I just think he has a lot of size, and like his raw build is really good. It's just the problem is he has the cramping issue, and he just sometimes doesn't block, as we saw last year. But
Sometimes
I think
doesn't block.
honestly though, like if I was John Ray Reed though, I would be pretty upset if I was told, "Hey,
Yeah.
another guy didn't figure out his eligibility. You were the starting center for the entire season in front of Kyle McCord at Syracuse, and now you're gonna be demoted. Like again, I know you're still starting on the
Demotion.
offensive line,
Demotion.
but the center is the hardest and the most important offensive line position.
Yeah.
It's you're doing two things at once, right?
Yeah,
So
but
it's
it doesn't mean it's a demotion. It just means it's filling the holes that
I
you
know,
need on the
but
team.
like how college again, like if this was NFL, like I'm sure he'd be fine, but this is college football where like everyone's ego is tainted when they don't get what they want. Let's be real, that's why the transfer portal exists, because
Yeah.
egos are tainted when stuff happens. Look at Bear Alexander, dare I say that name in here again. So I think if he's a mature guy who's like, I'm just trying to get to the NFL, like he'll be fine with it. But if that scenario happens, I wouldn't expect, John Ray Reed to be all hunky dory, like, oh, this is great.
Hunky dory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about that. At the same time, I guess this is also kind of a counterpoint for you. I think just because he's such an experienced player, a guy who wants to do what's right for the team, I could see him, moving to left guard. Um, I just think that it may be what he has to do just for the team's aspect. He's going to be probably the best offensive lineman that we have. I'll throw Elijah Page. He was obviously, as you mentioned, he was pretty good down the stretch. Tobias Raymond also had a great Las Vegas Bowl. I just think that Reed, because he's going to be such an important part, he's going to maybe have to give up a position to what the next best player, I guess, because I don't think you want to start a true freshman like Alex Payne on the right, on like the tackle position, and move Page over into the guard. I think you'd want to have as much experience as possible there. So I think that's why you maybe put Killian O'Connor at center and move Reed over to the guard.
Yeah, I agree there. And I want to ask you another question because like we didn't really have this show yet when the transfer portal was kind of in the height of it. Are
Mm-hmm.
you like now in hindsight, like we didn't know this Wingfield stuff was going to happen, but still, I sort of thought, they didn't really shop much in the transfer portal, like outside of those two guys for O line. I know those two guys are big, but are you disappointed now? Like hindsight's 2020, but looking back on it retrospectively, are you sort of like upset at Lincoln Riley? Like, man, you should have you don't have your depth at the offensive line is pretty thin. It's there, but it's thin. Like, what's your assessment on that?
No, I actually do agree. I was a little I don't want to say shocked, but I was definitely surprised that they didn't go get more offensive linemen in the portal, especially because part of it was Miller Moss, but he got blitzed when he was behind center, and also part of it was like guys like Mason Murphy and Elijah Page on that learning curve. But I was a little surprised they didn't go get some bigger names in the transfer portal. I don't know them off the top of my head, but some more, power four offensive linemen. I was a little surprised by that, especially because now we're in a situation where the depth has a lot of inexperience behind it. It's mostly sophomores and freshmen who haven't really seen the field all that much. So yeah, I guess so. Obviously, as you mentioned, like in hindsight, yeah, of course I'd want them to add more offensive linemen, but looking back, I wanted it. What about you?
No, I did too at the time. I mean, you look at what happened last year. It's not like their offensive line was just, middle of the pack. Like this offensive line was allowing 5 sacks against Michigan, 6 sacks. Dare I say? I don't remember off the
Yeah,
top of
what
my head.
was it? Yeah, it was way too many.
I mean, you're going into Michigan against Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, and you're expecting Miller Moss, who has no wheels, to win that game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they made it as close as they did was impressive. I think they have to realize they're not.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off for a second. I'm not going to agree with that because Michigan could not throw the ball downfield.
Okay, so you're right. They had a really good backfield.
Yeah.
But
go on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll rephrase it. USC playing at Michigan, it's a tough place to win. So I was surprised that they made it as close on the road, we'll say, just knowing how bad USC was on the road. Forget the team. I mean, I just think you're in such a physical, defensive line heavy conference. You're playing Oregon this year. You're playing Notre Dame, obviously. There's Michigan again. There's teams in this conference, even some of the bad teams, like Michigan State, their defensive line's not horrible, So I think
Illinois got a pretty decent one. Iowa always a defensive team.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think Maava has a really good 2025 quarterback skill set of you have to be able to extend the play. We saw Caleb do that. Yeah. Miller Moss clearly didn't have the ability to do that, and that's why he's in the ACC now. But man, it feels lazy. Again, I understand spending a lot of money on, certain portal guys, but it felt like USC doesn't really have, at least on the offensive side of the ball, a portal guy that is going to make a difference. Strawn is the best one, really. And even he's the wide receiver.
No, what about the running backs? What about Jordan and Sanders?
Okay, you're right. But I mean, okay, yeah, running backs, but that was a necessary fill. They had zero running backs, really. I mean, they had Brian Jackson, but at positions where they need depth, we'll say. Yeah. Outside of the halfback, I mean, receiver, you don't really need much, but offensive line, it would have been nice to get a tight end, I think, too. I mean, Lake McCree gets hurt a lot. Walker Lyons isn't that good, if we're being honest here. At least at catching the ball. So, I mean, yeah, sorry, that's my rant on the transfer portal.
No, I love it. Yeah. Yeah, it's disappointing. Like we said, it's looking back. Of course, we can make all these criticisms now what we know. I just still think that if you look at Lincoln Riley's tenure, he's not always getting the positions you most need, especially going into the Big Ten. The Big Ten is a conference where you build from the trenches, where you build from the defensive line, the offensive line. And I think they did a great job with the defensive line. I think the D-line is going to be fantastic. As I've said a ton of times on this show, I think it's probably going to be the best unit in the entire, not the entire country, on the entire team. But the offensive line is definitely a little questionable.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I mean, we've talked about the D-line, and there's depth there. The fact that Braylon Shelby might not be starting is a good sign for the D-line. But, I mean, the offensive side of the ball, it's just so weird to me that 2 years ago, the USC offense was one of the best in the country. Obviously, you have a Heisman quarterback, so that's going to help you a lot. But, 1 year, 2 years removed from that, it's almost flipped. It's the offense is so unpredictable. And I know college football, everything changes and you can't take anything in a vacuum, really. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it's weird that, an offensive guru like Lincoln Riley last year, only put up, 13 points against UCLA? It's just, it's weird.
16, thank you very much.
16, my bad.
Kicking field goals on the UCLA 5, 3 straight drive made me want to pull my hair out, dude.
Shout out to Michael Lance for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I just think it's such a disappointing. I don't know. We'll see what happens with Wingfield. Maybe everything we say here will be irrelevant. Maybe he'll get that waiver. I just go back to the point of how did Wingfield not know he wasn't eligible? This feels once again, maybe it's an NCAA problem. Maybe they didn't notify him till now. But how is it in mid-July that we're getting notified that this guy, one of our probably starting offensive linemen, isn't going to be able to play?
It's just, yeah, I mean, back to what you're saying. I mean, it's such a slippery slope. Like, we don't really know what happens behind the scenes, but I
Yeah.
mean, we are literally a month and a half away from kickoff. Like,
Yeah.
it is coming. Missouri State, they're coming August 30th, I think.
Well,
And I mean, like this isn't time to like shake up your roster. Obviously it's
no.
one guy, but this is the worst time for it to happen. Like I wish it happened if it had to happen like, months ago, because you'd have time to figure it out. You have practices, but this is just, a situation where it's going to be a lot of question marks. And look, you know, last year on the offensive line, USC had a lot of injuries, right?
Yeah.
And if that repeats itself, they could be in for a lot of trouble. Just losing this one guy. You don't have that many guys on your team. So, or at least
Mm-mm.
on your offensive line, I mean, the depth wise. So yeah, I think that's tough.
Yeah. Okay. So I completely agree. Let's move into our other topic because